Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope y'all doing well. It's Dr. Delon Canterbury. I'm the founder of GeriatRx and founder of the Deprescribing Accelerator. What is going on, world? I'm here today again talking about deprescribing, but more importantly, the red pill versus the blue pill. Welcome to our virtual series where we discuss how we can choose the red pill and unleash the power of deprescribing in this healthcare system I call the Matrix. So, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Today, I'm discussing and highlighting the importance of having more of our pharmacists lead the charge in deprescribing, but more importantly, emphasizing it doesn't always have to be a pharmacist. And I think it just needs to really involve a passionate clinician who works in the senior care space, but more importantly, wants to better advocate for patients and reduce medication harm, reduce costs associated with that medication harm, and of course, reduce some of those resources we waste on preventable issues that cripple our health system. So, welcome back. I am your chief deprescriber. I'm a board certified geriatric pharmacist. Founded my company 2 years ago with the sole intent of empowering our caregivers and clinicians, and of course, our communities with how they can best advocate for their loved ones or themselves from battling overprescribing, which is not just a public health crisis, but this is an international issue, right? This is an international problem that I aim to try to at least use my platform to address, but more importantly, show you that you can do the very same thing in your own zone of genius, in your own world, and make a change from this broken health system. So why deprescribing? Why does this need to be led by pharmacists? Why? I mean, let's be real. Let's start with the first fact. Pharmacists are the medication experts, right? Literally have degrees in this. We have so much we can leverage in our own worlds of genius with that. And frankly, we're still not being used at the top of our license. So here's a way that we can shift some of our traditional perceptions of pharmacists and use them as, of course, as advanced care practitioners, chronic care management people. I mean, we there's so much we do and don't really get much kudos for, and that's fine. But we got to definitely start getting loud and proud about the value we demonstrate and the amount of money we save this healthcare system just from our day-to-day basis with the community, with patients, and with providers, and of course, insurers and tons of other players that are in this game. But there's a lot. And what I find is, yeah, there's a lot asked of us, but there's also ample opportunities that I feel have not really been explored within our space. And it's time to really shift away as our profession starts losing its own control to PBMs and whoever bad guy you want to name. We got to start getting a little more creative in how we get paid, one, but two, not always be attached to a product which is like a pill or an order verified for someone. So really today, working in the geriatric space, and starting my company 2 years ago, I didn't know where this would take me. I did not know what would be received. I did not know, the amount of reach and impact I would later have, but I did not know that this was what I was supposed to be doing all along. I did not know that, like, at all, right? It took a lot of downs and a lot of grumblings to try to start serving in this mission and this calling. Despite even seeing what my parents went through as caregivers and what my patients would deal with when I work in the retail setting, after a while, it gets pretty old and you want to do something different, right? You just want to get out of that world and try to find something that's a little more aligned to our passions and why we got these, doctorates to better help people, right? And of course, do it using our knowledge base and using our clinical skills to empower and motivate and do so many other things that I think are underappreciated. But our patients love us and we're still one of the most trusted providers. But really today, let's really discuss why this is important. And I want us to really touch on how we cannot keep just sitting on our clinical skills and not using them in a way, you know, from our usual 9 to 5 that our employers want us to do. Like, I encourage you to see that there is a world of opportunity for you, and joy and realignment and getting that passion back can be a possibility with deep prescribing. And how I mean this is, a lot of what frankly got me here was doing things without any sense of what's going to happen after, right? And I don't mean just like shotgun approach, but literally leading with service in mind and knowing that in this mission, it's going to take, a lot of moving pieces to make that policy change, to have us get reimbursed for de-prescribing and other amazing ways we can integrate advanced clinical pharmacist skills. But what I found most valuable was how much we can keep empowering other prescribers and clinicians to think very much the same way, and not just lead by example, but lead with this approach of how everyone can win when it's done and executed with the patient's goals in mind, and with, well, objective information to challenge what's already been done. Like, we can't always assume every med is appropriate, especially when it comes to our seniors, which we know just don't clear the medications the same as they age. So I believe pharmacists need to be the quarterback, absolutely. And I think what's around the corner is we have an aging population. It's going to be about projected to be about 70 million people. We have an aging population that is the largest demographic within this country. We have less and less care providers in the senior space to treat these patients, right? So a lot of the care is going to rely on our primary care providers in these health systems, instead of, ideally a geriatrician who, of course, specializes in that. But a lot of the care is going to end up falling to either mid-level practitioners or, of course, people in these primary care family settings. And, well, I didn't learn geriatrics, like medicine, until not even really until my credential, sure, but it was really getting into the space and working with seniors over and over, starting to get a feel for, like, okay, now I think I might be getting it. And I think that's a piece of our system that may actually be missing if this is where the future of care is going to be, right? So I'm not sure if that population is trained and ready to prepare to take care of an aging population. So I see opportunities and gaps for more pharmacist integration, but really more advocacy for de-prescribing before our medication errors and harms and costs associated with adverse events and hospitalizations continue to rise. Look, I mean, we're still seeing spikes in polypharmacy, and we're still seeing spikes in, well, the consumption of medicine by an aging population that's literally devouring a third of all scripts filled. So if we have a population that's already over-medicated, why wait for the roller coaster to get off the rails, right? Why wait for the crash when we can probably tackle these issues head on, have a pharmacist involved who's specializing in de-prescribing, have a clinician who's specializing in advocating for de-prescribing, and doing it in a systemic and sustainable way, and doing it in a way that we're showing and tracking those outcomes of cost savings and reduced harm. And if we have studies that do it, then I think it's damn possible for us to unify and do this with our insurance payers and with policy and with the right, maybe, insurance plan that really wants to put value-based care into that game. Hey, Saeed, nice to meet you. Appreciate you joining, man. Hey, what's going on, Zach? Thank you for joining in. But as I was saying, yes, we got to be the quarterback. I mean, we first of all, we got pharmacogenomics. There's a whole world of opportunity with just using precision medicine genetic testing, right? And amazing people are out here doing the damn thing with it. There's a lot we can do to integrate in the senior care space, in the psych space, cardiovascular space, of course, oncology space. There's tons of opportunity there. And so, again, medication optimization can be used almost anonymously with this. But really what I find is with deprescribing, we're looking for targeted approaches to reduce what we can, and in my world, as much as possible that's clinically safe and sound with the supervision of a doctor. And so we should get paid the value for the costs or savings made, or at least, the harm reduced, or maybe some hard measure, some HEDIS measure, some CMS outcome, whether it's hospitalization rates, falls risks, opioid use in seniors, chronic constipation, quality of life, pain management scores. I think we just have to start approaching our services like we are the lawyers on retainer. You see, we don't bat an eye if you're trying to potentially hire someone to help you with a lawsuit or something to pay 35, 5K. We don't bat an eye at that for a lawyer, right? We don't. And I feel we as pharmacists need to start thinking like we're lawyers on retainer for our patients. And that's exactly one of our care models that I embody for my business. And knowing that, if we're going to be these advocates and the drug experts and, the liaison between the clinicians and other people on the care team, then damn it, we should get paid accordingly, like we are the lawyers on retainer, right? And mind you, this is just a cash model I'm broaching, but there are ways to do this and be reimbursed and still give that level of quality, or at least change policy where we have CPT codes that we can bill for that, again, quantify, or at least try to quantify the value of cost savings or the intervention of, the patient who fell so many times last year didn't fall any this year. And I think that can be quantified and can be reimbursed for that type of intervention, right? If we're tracking that accordingly. So what I've enjoyed about this mission was running into not only so many caregivers that advocate for deprescribing in their own world, whether it's their loved one or themselves or, spouses, but it's the same story every time. It's the same story every time. I knew someone on 20 meds. I said, Doc, we're not doing that. And again, I'm not telling people to just raise hell and deny everything, but it's always the same story. I didn't like how my grandma was looking. What can we do to just reset some of these meds? And then after a while, they're gone. Patient's on 2, and the patient's like, everything's cool. So I'm not trying to just put everyone in harm's way, but for those that we know can be excellent deprescribing candidates, why not just do that? Just reset. Like I would love a world where we can just reset all the meds that are completely unnecessary. Of course, with using other lifestyle changes, diet, everything we can do to empower the patient and actually sustainably have them motivated and inspired to actually do that for their own patient-centric goals, their own personal health goals that they want to achieve. But I believe it'd be nice if we can potentially, just have a nice reset. Just like, if you turn 65 and you've been on this for how many times, you just have a nice, just medication reset. Now, mind you, I'm really just throwing alley-oops from the backcourt. I'm like, all right, let's just see what happens. But this is something I played with. I'm like, look, if we have some studies that show nursing home facilities that have literally made a policy because of the lack of staffing due to COVID to only have nurses administer pills that were like necessary and life-saving, to have about 72% of prescriptions deprescribed and not recontinued just after one policy shift. It was like an inadvertent, accidental deprescribing study. It was interesting. It was so cool. Like when I heard this at the first ICOT convention, the International Conference on Deprescribing, earlier this year in September, they announced this trial, and it was an accident. It happened here in the States, but essentially this nursing home just said, you know what, we are so inundated with COVID, we just not going to keep going back and forth and giving you all these pills. We're going to just stick to what's necessary. And the doctors were in accord, the nursing staff was in accord, the policymakers were in accord. And so they just said, we're going to do this temporarily and just see what happens. And they did it, and they successfully deprescribed, like I said, about 72% of the residents from like unnecessary meds. And so imagine the cost savings associated with that. Imagine the labor costs saved with using that type of approach. And I'm not saying everyone needs to do that, but I think it's worth a shot if they've shown success like this. And it wasn't, again, designed to be like a deprescribing trial. It was simply a let's change policy because of resources and see what happens. And inadvertently, they saved money and time from just one policy change. And that is the type of information I want us as clinicians to quarterback into this world of how can we just shift our medication mindsets? How can we shift this reactive approach to always needing to treat? And how can we make this the mainstay of our geriatric patients? And again, resetting these meds, of course, not ones that we clearly know we need to taper and strategically watch. I get that. But just as an approach, just as a let's just do something different, because God, it ain't working the way we're doing it now. Mariana, thanks for tuning in. She left a comment. Hey, do you think the advent of prescription digital therapeutics could help reduce polypharmacy and potentially facilitate deprescribing? As far as I'm aware, there are no clinical trials yet, but this is something that's been on my mind since I started talking to the prescription digital therapeutics company reps. Hey, amazing question. I think there is power in data. And just so you're aware, there are a couple of clinical decision tools that are out there that specifically talk about deprescribing and actually use deprescribing and have successfully implemented it across many a facility. And so the first one that comes to mind is the MedSafer app. So that's a tool we also discuss a bit in our Deprescribing Accelerator program. It's a clinical decision support tool, and it's been really damn good at pinpointing ways to really deprescribe problematic meds. And they've been repeating the results again in their studies time and time again. Now, I'm not sure if that software is necessarily like for sale. And, I'm actually looking forward to meeting with them and learning more about that program. But they have some really good data out there. So I'm going to make sure I look up the MedSafer trial and try to share that in the comments with you. So let me just make a note. But the MedSafer trial is a great example of tackling some of that polypharmacy. I do believe there needs to be overall more education around polypharmacy and examples of prescribing cascades. I think that's a really, really key way to, again, kind of reshift the complexity of all this. Because, yeah, it's not just a med list. It's like, all right, is there a reason why this other med's on because of this med? And it's finding these connections in between all this chaos. And then, there are other barriers. But do I definitely believe that the advent of prescription digital therapeutic can help reduce this? Yeah. And there are a couple apps and startups out there that are doing this actively. I mean, there's Taper MD, I've heard of. There's Genexus, which is a pharmacogenomics testing site, as well as clinical decision support tool. And they actually incorporate a lot of the recommendations from the Beers lists and other geriatric-led guidelines within their algorithms. So even the meds that you're looking genomically can be assessed. You could still look and see the recommendations they have from like the Beers list and Stop Start and other geriatric-based apps that, again, are going to guide you towards deprescribing and addressing that issue in the room. So yeah, Mariana, great question. I believe, yeah. I mean, there are some trials. There are some trials out there to look at these clinical decision support tools. There's another one that the VA has actually spearheaded, and it's saved millions of dollars. I believe it's actually actively in about 300 veteran affiliated health systems now, but it's the Vione study. So VIONE, what started off as a small little idea in little old Arkansas's VA health system has blown up across the VA, and they are actively using deprescribing with the Vione mnemonic, which stands for vital, important, optional, not indicated. And I think E is like every medication on the list has a clinical indication. So they're using this mnemonic to essentially screen before the patient is in touch with the provider for problematic, potentially inappropriate meds and potential deprescribing opportunities. And why this is dope is that on average, I think they deprescribe about two or three meds per patient. But they've also shown the cost savings associated with this within the VA health systems. So again, the Vione study is pretty awesome. That's out there. And they're using just a little bit of the clinical decision support tool within their EHRs to enact this type of amazing change. So great question. Again, you got me on a whole slew of different studies and apps and other software that's on the rise. And there are more and more startups that are still doing this. So I'm sure there's tons more I'm like drawing a blank on right now, but the digital health is the future, guys. We're going to be literally having people see pharmacists on their phones as consults, and they're going to be doing away with the old model. And well, we're going to have to figure out other ways to demonstrate our value, but that's where we're going. That's the reality of healthcare. I mean, look at Amazon, look at PillPack, look at all this, look at Mark Cuban's. I mean, this is happening. It's not a joke. So the time is now for this opportunity to again leverage our skill sets and use it to better advocate and hopefully advise policy, advise change, advise prescribing habits. I envision a world where we're going to have, deprescribing advocates. That's what my alumni are. They are certified deprescribing advocates. When you complete our 3-month deprescribing accelerator program, sure. But I'm seeing a world where we're going to have deprescribing med rec technicians, deprescribing medical assistants. We're going to have an army of just deprescribing trained mid-level providers and higher level advanced level providers. And I think when we do it together, we can make such a win, such a huge win. I mean, there's a CDC grant right now that Dr. Stephanie Ferrari, also one of my teachers and from UNC alum, she got a $3 million grant in just talking about reducing opioid use in seniors. So she's talking about deprescribing opioids in seniors. And this is through UNC and their medication optimization department, but also the CDC's funding this. So it ain't like we're not talking about it. I just feel we get stuck in this world of the academia and researchers. And I, as Morpheus, is just trying to make this common to the people, common to the clinicians, common to the people who can actively do these little micro changes within their world and systemize this and then get paid for it. Get paid doing this. If we're saving lives, get paid doing what you love. And this is what I love. And so that's why I have to give you the objective evidence out there and show that this is what I'm doing. And I'm not stopping doing this, and I love doing this, and it's the only reason I wake up, apart from just life. But this has been my calling, and I get paid literally doing what I've been trained to do, and it's advocating for people in a way that I never thought was possible, right? And it's fun. It's so fun. So that's what I want for everyone: pharmacist, nurse, doctor. I really believe all of us can have this potential to do more, save more lives, and get better paid for that very much, that same impact. So I think there are multiple smart ways to do this with technology. There are clinical decision tools that help like quantify risk of harm and risk of side effects and adverse events. Of course, there's still the growing field of pharmacogenomics. I mean, people in the clinical space don't quite know what genetics mean and how that impacts drug metabolism. And not to mention the health disparities that come along that world, right? Like we barely have data from people of color, 6% about. And then we have 6% that even are involved in clinical trials. So for facts, we can't assume we're going to have all the data to know, oh, if you come from this ethnicity or background, then you're going to just be this genotype or phenotype. We don't know all that stuff yet. So there's a need for us to have more data, sure, but there's also more of a need, again, to bridge some of the gaps that have already out to those who don't have access. And that's one of my goals with this. So Deprescribing, man, it's yes, it's the one-on-one supervised clinical tapering of medications and doing it with supervision of a doctor, clinician, et cetera. It's that, but there's so many pieces before that happens. There's the patient advocacy piece. There's the education. I mean, first of all, we're not even thought to think we can get off of these pills. Like we never think that. We just think, I've been on that metformin and it's going to be with me for the rest of my life. And that's it. There's no hope. And so there needs to be a reframe of this general thought about medicine. And again, I'm not anti-medicine. Medicines are necessary. I will never be anti-medicine. They've saved my life many a time and countless others. I'm against the trigger happiness of our health system to always put a pill in you for everything. And it's hard getting those diagnosis codes off of your chart if it's not even true. If you have a little fear of seeing a doc and you have blood pressure because of your white coat syndrome, and now you got that in your chart, it becomes a whole cascade of other stuff that they can be billed for. And getting that change down the road is very hard, difficult. And there are inherent issues with that, right? And again, this is deeper than just using some clinical skills to do a really awesome med review. This is not just a calling. It's like more of it's advocacy. Yeah, it's education, but it's like literally giving people the cheat codes to own their own lives, like to own their health, like to get back those health outcomes that we just think are so far away. And if I'm able to do this just in the couple months of business I've been in, and see substantial differences in the impact I've had and even how I show up for my patients and myself, then damn, I want us all to have that joy back. Because we know the ugly truth, man. Medicine is no joke. This is not for the weak. Healthcare is not for the weak. Either we're getting screwed by insurance, we're getting screwed by a policy, we're getting screwed by what color your state votes. Your zip code is the end all be all of your health outcomes. Like, damn. We are almost like destined to your outcomes based on your socioeconomic status and what zip code you are born in. And I just want to push back a little bit against that and just have us try to just do something different. Let's do something different. Let's be more proactive in preventative measures. And I think deprescribing is literally the key to preventative harm reduction. It's the key to true value-based care, not fake value-based care covered with all these schemes to screw people over who aren't getting the best results and poorer hospitals. There's a whole world of shadiness to virtue signaling, right? But I'm really speaking to the core of it, which is if you want to reduce harm, and if I keep reading article after study, after journal, after pilot, and it's literally the same thing every time. Polypharmacy kills people. Medications kill people. And yes, I'm a geriatric pharmacist, but can we just hit the reset a little bit? Just, hey, can we just pause and let's just reassess everything again? Because you got to understand that patient wasn't just a patient once you saw them. They've been a patient. They've been dealing with some of these conditions for years and years and years, right? So when people may hit these golden ages of 60 and up or whatever, that they're literally a patient history of like decades of info, and you don't always know if all the info is right. You're kind of going off faith and value of just, well, this is what the patient's telling me, so that's what I got. But there's a whole world of history that's just outside of just clinician patient. There's just a person, and there's a person who likely wasn't told of ways to really, truly, and consistently find ways to improve their health. And we don't invest in that. We're not really incentivized to invest in that here. I do have to shout out, there is one insurance company that I looked into that I thought was brilliant. And I'm going to have to find the name of that company. But this insurance company went hard, right? They went hard in the paint to basically incentivize their small employees, a small employee insurer, to get fit, to work out, to potentially lose weight, to basically clock your workout points, go to the gym, do a cycle class, and you just clock your points. And the more you worked out, the more the employers got paid, or they got reductions from their annual premiums for their insurance. So it was a monetary incentivization for the patient, but now the patient's like sustainably doing it even after they've maxed out on their benefits, because now it's just a part of their life. And I'm going to have to find that data, because it was really intriguing that this was like a true example of monetizing doing the right thing, but they eventually had healthier and happier employees. So guess what? There was less absenteeism, right? There was energetic patients. People are fit and happy to participate and contribute to the team. There was better positivity around work. I mean, there was substantial growth and cost savings in ethically doing the right thing. So I don't think it has to be all anti-capitalism. I think there needs to be a balance of ethical healthcare, and I think it can be monetized on both ends where everyone wins, for sure. So I say that to say, if we can use that example of this insurance company, which I will try to find a name for, that even tracked data long term and showed the sustainability and lasting impact of this, we can do the very same thing with these pills. We can do the very same thing with paying doctors to deprescribe, paying pharmacists to deprescribe, paying nurses, paying social workers to advocate and educate for deprescribing. And it could be as specific as a health condition as dementia, right? Or we know easily, with heart failure, there's certain meds we gotta avoid that actually worsen heart failure. And it's like, to me, it's just a little bit of pharmacy knowledge, a little bit enacted into policy, and then we have wide-standing change, system-wide change. But I think it starts small. All of these things I discussed started with a small seed, a small idea, and it blew up into now national movements. And I'm tired of America just being left behind. And I'm glad we have amazing people like the United States Deprescribing Network, funded by the National Institute on Aging and the National Institute on Health, who are now putting out more and more research grants to help people tackle this. So if you haven't checked it out, check out the US Deprescribing Network. There are a couple pilot grants that are out there. There's one for $60,000 for research efforts to, again, implementing and educating around deprescribing. And there's an even larger one for $120,000 for people specifically focusing on benzodiazepine and opioid deprescribing. Okay. So check out the US Deprescribing Networks. They do have grants for that. I'm going to be going for it. I encourage you to do the same and see how you can put this into place. But yeah, this isn't impossible. This isn't a myth. This isn't something that isn't doable. And so the opportunity is really now. The opportunity is now for us to get our passions back for healthcare. The opportunity is now to get our profession back. And I'm speaking now as a pharmacist, like we got to get our professions back. And really, we got to get out this cycle of egos and see that this is a bigger issue than your titles after your name. This is a universal systemic issue that hits every age, every demographic, rich or poor. It hits every someone you know is over medicated right now. And you know it. We all know it. We know it because I hear it every time I speak, every time I go to a caregiver event, every time I'm on the radio, every time there's a question about, well, what do you think about it? And it's like nonstop. And by golly, I cannot deprescribe everybody alone. I need y'all to do it too. And some of y'all are actively doing it in every day of your life. And I commend you so much because, again, it's an unspoken calling. And the value isn't always like demonstrated with what they're worth. And I want to salute that. I want to salute you. But hey, the US is behind, and I'm just trying to accelerate us, catch us up to the rest of the world that have been doing this for quite some time. If you haven't heard of it, absolutely check out deprescribing.org. That's another amazing website that can give you some really quick tips on deprescribing guidelines, commonly clinically sound evidence-based protocols for addressing antipsychotic use, benzodiazepine. They talk about even dementia drugs. They talk about omeprazole, which is really, I just had a patient on, of course, 25, 30 minutes. And it's like I look at these med lists and I'm just like, what? It's like, did anyone try? It's like, did anyone ever try? Did anyone even ask questions? This woman's on omeprazole 40 milligrams twice a day, 80 years old. And she has osteoporosis. And I can't say, causation, association, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, she's on all these, she's on a bandronate, she's on calcium, she's on all this other stuff because of her osteoporosis. And I'm like, bro, how long have you been on this omeprazole? How long have you been on this omeprazole? Do you really need it? And the patient's saying, well, she has a nervous stomach. What does that mean? Is it anxiety that induces heartburn? Or is it the stomach? Or have we addressed that? Have we played with that? Have we thought about other options? Have we stopped for a little bit? Have we reduced the dose? Have we done anything to address this? And for those who may not know, omeprazole can reduce the absorption of magnesium and calcium and other vital supplements. And it's also associated with fractures and osteoporosis as we age. Again, I cannot say it's the cause here. But as a clinician looking at a med review, I have to say, what the hell are we doing? We're not using clinicians that are passionate for deprescribing at the top of their license. We're not using pharmacists at the top of our licenses. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. And that's why I created GeriatRx. That's why I founded the Deprescribing Accelerator. Because I am living in such joy and alignment now than peddling those pills by 5. I just enjoy what I'm doing. And I'm enjoying seeing how so many of us can do this together. And that's the way it has to be done, because I don't think our things are getting better systemically. I think technology is advancing, but we still got disparities in care. And we definitely have a lack of people who are doing this type of holistic care. And at least we needed to at least let it be affordable. And that's why ultimately we're going to need policy change to incentivize this. I am excited to meet with the CEO or VP, I believe, of Scan Health. They actually reached out to me a couple of weeks ago when I was doing some of these lives on Deprescribing, and they highlighted that that is actually some of the core tenets of their insurance policy. So I'm like, I really want to learn more on what they're offering their patients, and frankly, see what we can do to extrapolate that to these Medicare Advantage plans and these, because that's also going to be the future. We're losing more people on original Medicare, and now insurers are going to be these private pay Medicare Advantage plans. That's going to be the mainstay of a lot of our future patients' care. So I don't know if y'all know, but the Medicare funding is running out. The Medicare funding and that vault, the time is ticking. 2026, it is slated to be donezo. And I don't know who's going to be president at that time. And I have my concerns. But what does that mean for our aging population? Shoot, what does that mean for me in the next 30 years when I get up there? I don't know. I mean, I am hoping it's going to be renewed. They're going to pass a budget to fund it, but it's one of the most costly things that we as taxpayers are all actively paying for. Each and every check is Medicare, your state taxes, like, I don't know, other stuff. So I think all of us have our own zones of genius and how we can make not just a shift in just talking about the problem, not just trying to blame that this is all a prescriber problem and we got to just, it's not a prescriber problem. It's a prescribing problem. It's a systemic problem, but a lot of it isn't even taught. So I can't be blaming prescribers for this, but I can blame the systems that forced this to be the mainstay of care. I could definitely blame the lack of education around this. I can definitely blame how we don't quite care about you living healthily, just living long enough to get to the next med, to the next med, to the next pill, to the next copay. And I don't want that. I don't want that to be my future. I don't want that to be our older population's future down the road and now. I don't want to be worried about Medicare being defunded either. That's, I don't think it's going to happen, but if the budgets are even tighter, I mean, we already have disparities in the states that did not vote to expand Medicaid. So I do not, if that's any example of what that may look for any other type of widespread decision like that, I think the answer is obvious where that's going to go. So if we're going to tackle this issue of 275,000 people basically dying each year from medication-related events, if we're trying to really reduce this $528 billion price tag on the costs associated with mismanaged meds in this country and side effects and of course, inappropriate therapies, if the World Health Organization ranks polypharmacy and medication adverse events as one of the top 5 public health emergencies in the world, then why not do something about it and use the people that are best equipped to do something about it, and then leave these micro changes where you are within your health system, within your job, within your own business, within your own providers that you see, within yourself, if you want to get off your pills too, whatever. But if we know that, then we got to do something about it. I am going to do something about it, and I want all of you to do something about it in your own world, and just talking and educating and advocacy and just having an in-service for 10 minutes a week about the beers list. Just something simple. Just do something. Learn about it. Just do something. I mean, just at the caregiver college this week I attended, which was so fun. Yo, that was fun. I did an event Tuesday with the Caregiver College, which is led by the Maya Angelou Center for Health Equity, based out of Wake Forest School of Medicine in Winston-Salem, and met with Dr. Allison Kevin Holt, and it was so cool. They literally developed this 5-day caregiver training course, and I mean, they covered everything from end of life care to advanced planning to how to advocate for yourself to having your affairs in order, and of course, talking about just end of life planning, talking about finances, elder care attorneys, you name it, home. They talk about everything. This is a whole week. And it's so cool because these caregivers that graduate not only get all this valuable intel, but part of the grant, part of the research is for these people to go back into their communities and then present on the very same information to anyone there. So it's like a teach back method built into each other. And so I had the distinct pleasure to talk about deprescribing, and this is specifically tailored for Alzheimer's caregivers and dementia patients. So we were speaking more to deprescribing harmful meds within the dementia population, right? So, I'm dropping my anecdotes, talking about my grandma Mildred being prescribed ziprasidone during her nursing home, and that basically tanked her symptoms of sundowning and started getting worse, cognitive impairment. It was like a back and forth. I'm talking about, avoiding Benadryl, hydroxyzine for people, understanding anticholinergic toxicity, like talking about it, trying to break it down as simple as possible in non-clinical jargon, but giving people just a little bit of pharmacist brain to go preach to the masses, to push back against polypharmacy. I mean, we talked about prescribing cascades, how to get off Percocets, self-medicating, understanding the uses and potential harms of herbal supplements and vitamins as well, the benefits of those. Someone did throw me a curveball about like medical marijuana use. And I was like, there's a lot of good evidence coming out down the pipeline. And I don't know enough. And I know there's some cool cannabis pharmacists and pharmacologists and clinicians out there who could spin circles around me talking about it. And I'm not against it. I mean, I'm open to it in appropriate settings. And of course, under supervision of a clinician that can, of course, avoid any potential drug interactions, as they do have drug interactions. So we got to talk about that, of course. But I love that we're able to have this level of openness and transparency and trust and just sharing these very same anecdotes that I hear time and time again. People advocating for themselves, people who even saw somebody earlier signs of dementia, not having the right attire, losing track of time and place, like speaking to the reality, that the personal piece of being that caregiver, and even just being in denial with yourself or even with your own family, and then like, things are a little different with grandma or whoever. So to have that level of connection from 40-minute talk, and to have so many people just try to get to know how they can best help for their loved ones, was again an affirmation on the journey that I'm on, but also that all of us have this power. I think we're just kind of in the matrix, hence the red pill versus the blue pill. I want us to choose the red pill. I want us to choose a different way. And I want us to know that if you're serving an alignment and you're showing up with this passion that we all have had, trust you're gonna make it back. You're gonna get paid double, triple, whatever you put in your time and energies to. And shoot, I did not believe that at first, but this journey, it definitely shows you a lot about yourself, but it always leads to a resounding, why did I do this in the first place? Like it's always bigger than us. It's always a bigger thing. And because I admit, I struggle, man. There are days I mentally struggle with this journey, because it's like, You don't know if you're doing it right. You don't know where to, you have an idea where to start. But am I really going to push back against a health system that makes billions off of doing the opposite of what I'm advocating for? It's going to be a tough road. It's going to be a tough, long road, and I am ready for the fight. But yeah, this is an army. This is an army of deprescribers. This is a movement in healthcare. It's international. It's not just here in the US. And I want all of you to be a part of it and learn that you can be a part of it. So wanted to share my why I believe deprescribing needs to be led by pharmacists, sure, but it needs to be the standard of care for all of our seniors. And any clinician in this space has the power to advocate as much as any provider. Prescriber, pharmacist, nurse, like the egos don't matter here, guys. The titles don't matter. I think it helps to have an expert who knows the drugs on board. But the implementation piece, the advocacy, the education can be done by anyone in this circle that we call senior care. So I am Delon. I'm the chief deprescriber. I want this to be the norm for you. What resonated with you today? Let me know your thoughts. Really enjoyed letting some things out this time. I was feeling the energy today. It was a lot of love and engagement. So I want to thank you all for tuning in again to the red pill versus the blue pill, but for seeing that this is a calling that's bigger than us. It's so much deeper than an awesome med rec. It's so much more than that. It's this whole way of life that can be changed, and the impact you have from that intervention can go so far for the patient, for the family, for the grandbabies that you don't realize that you're affecting, because now they're living longer. Now they remember their family members. Now they can go travel together. Now they can go to the beach and have those priceless moments back. And I want that for all of us. And frankly, we owe that to our seniors. We owe that to our vets. We owe that to people that have served us and groomed us and bathed us and raised us. And we can't have a health system that leaves them high and dry. And it does. So anyway, it's my TED Talk. Appreciate the love, and I'll be back next week with more. But I love the comments. Appreciate y'all tuning in live. Love to know your thoughts and what resonated with you. And if you want to check out our Deprescribing Accelerator, we are taking applicants and reviewing and interviewing for next year. So we cap at usually 5 people, 5 entrepreneurs, 5 organizations, 5 deprescribing advocates. People have a passion for the senior space and want to enact change where they are, and how to get paid doing it. That's fun too. So yeah, check us out, learn more. The link is in the comments. I am going to find some information about the MedSafer study and try to post that. And then I'm going to also check out that insurance company that did this incentivization of, I guess, better fitness. I think it was like, oh man, it was just such a good study. But I'm going to try to find that. And I just love that we can probably extrapolate that type of approach to medication management, pharmacogenomics. I think there's a lot we can do with it. So much love, y'all. And check us out next week, Thursday at 12. We'll be doing the red pill versus the blue pill. Again, this is the introduction to the Deprescribing Accelerator, our movement in healthcare, in bridging the gaps from the community and the ground up to advocate for our overmedicated seniors. So y'all take care and catch y'all next time.